Okay. All right, good morning, everybody. I'm Pinellas County Sheriff Bob Gualtieri, and we're here this morning to announce several arrests as a result of what we called Operation Flushout. As most people are aware, here in Pinellas County last year, the Sheriff's Office undertook the responsibility in conjunction at that point with the Pinellas County Construction Licensing Board for investigating violations of state law and county ordinance regarding unlicensed contracting. And as was widely discussed and reported on, we had taken it over at a time when the Construction Licensing Board had some issues and some challenges in doing that. We've since transitioned the regulatory responsibility back to Pinellas County. State law was passed abolishing the licensing board in the previous form and turning it over to Pinellas County government. That took effect on July 1st, but what we said in transitioning it back to Pinellas County government, that the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office would continue to conduct investigations of criminal violations and work with the licensing board because of the amount of consumer harm that's out there and the number of people who are vulnerable that are being exploited by those who are engaged in unlicensed contracting. We said that we would conduct these undercover operations moving forward. We have and we will, and what I'm going to talk to you about is a result of an undercover operation this weekend. So this operation began on Saturday, ran yesterday and into this morning, and detectives responded to ads that were placed on various websites and social media, including Craigslist and the Nextdoor app. We have a business that we acquired at the intersection of 28th Street and 54th Avenue North, which is a few miles to the north and to the east of here. And those ads were for a variety of work that people were willing to do. And they responded and came to the business and met with undercover detectives. And the work to be done included electrical work, painting, drywall, tile work, and framing. And these people who came to the business offered to engage in this contracting work without a license and without pulling the appropriate permits. Between Saturday and Sunday, detectives arrested 25 people and referred 3 additional cases to the state attorney's office. And as we'll see here in a minute this morning, as this operation is ongoing, there were additional 5 cases made this morning. A total over the weekend of 28 charges of unlicensed specialty contracting and 22 felony charges of workers' compensation fraud. Nobody, not one single person who showed up at this business we set up to do work, not one of them had a license. So every single one of them showed up doing this under the table, unlicensed, not wanting to pull a permit, and to do it in a shady way. So these people that showed up to do this work, they were also charged with a variety of other criminal offenses, including possession of cocaine, driving with a suspended license, a variety of outstanding warrants, including DUI, failing to appear for not having workers' comp insurance, failure to appear for grand theft, and a warrant for unlicensed contracting and resisting arrest without violence. One particular individual, Jason White, is somebody who is well known to our investigators from our time investigating and running the construction licensing component here in Pinellas County during this past year. And White is what we would call a habitual offender. At the time that he showed up here to do the work over the weekend, he had 4 active warrants for his arrest. 3 warrants from Pinellas County were failure to have workers' compensation insurance, unlicensed contracting, and grand theft, and 1 warrant from Polk County for the same thing, unlicensed contracting. And he was known to do extremely shoddy work, and we had a number of complaints about him. The total value of the work individuals offered to perform without being licensed and without obtaining permits is $66,000 worth of work that was offered to be done. In each of the cases, the value of the work offered to be performed ranged from $700 up to $6,500. Now, having a specialty contracting license means that somebody has demonstrated minimum qualifications to do the work, and there is less of a likelihood of consumer harm, less of a likelihood of somebody getting shoddy work done and somebody being ripped off. The permitting process is important because it assures the work is done up to code, and the inspections ensure the work is done properly. Now, there's a guy that was arrested over the weekend, David Wiltberger, who told undercover detectives that he would work on weekends and he would cover the windows up to avoid any, quote, red flags. So this isn't something that people don't know about. They know what the obligation is, they know what the law is, they just choose not to follow it because they don't want to get licensed and they don't want to get the permits. Now, as I said, we do these undercover operations because the consumers are being harmed by people who engage in this activity. The unlicensed contractors prey on these vulnerable people by taking their money without doing the work, failing to complete the jobs, or again, doing the shoddy work. So we investigate a lot of these that are unlicensed. The Pinellas County Construction Licensing Board is now back investigating and regulating the licensed people. But it's also especially related to these unlicensed contractors. It's very, very frustrating to those who are licensed, because those who are licensed are trying to do the right thing. They're trying to run their business legitimately. They're abiding by the law. They're getting the licenses. They're getting the permits, and they're being undercut in what they're trying to do by these unlicensed people. So it's not fair to those legitimate business owners. And as you can see here by this board that's to my left, is that you want to see about the unscrupulous way of doing these, the unprofessional way of doing it, and what these unlicensed people do. This is a contract that was written by Deborah Turney, who's one of the people here on the board, and she wrote this quote, and I say quote, contract, on a crumpled up piece of paper for the work that she was going to do. So we have total about 30 people between the ones over the weekend and this morning, total of about 60 criminal charges, misdemeanors and felonies. And what we want to say to those that are out there doing this, stop, do it the right way, go get licensed, get the permits, and stop ripping people off. And if you don't, then we'll catch you the next time. And unfortunately is that, as we see with some of these people, is they're doing it over and over again. And I mentioned this when we did the operation back earlier the year up in Dunedin, is that they write it into the cost of doing business because they're not used to getting arrested. What they're used to have happening is that they get some type of citation, they pay a fine, and they're just building it into their unlicensed building model. It's got to stop because the consumer harm is out there, people are being preyed on, they're getting ripped off, they're getting the work done in a shoddy way, and we're going to keep doing these operations. So go get licensed, stop doing it illegally, or you're going to go to jail. Anybody have any questions?
Sheriff, the numbers in your sting seem to be going up. Are you concerned that the work that's being done isn't having an impact? Or you think it's just so pervasive, it's not going to hit it?
Yeah, I think it's so pervasive. You know, I would, my description of this is like shooting fish in a barrel. And we could set up, and originally what I wanted to do, but it wasn't feasible because I know that we could double these numbers, is I wanted to have 2 storefronts at the same time with 2 undercover teams and 2 sets of detectives that are running this thing. And if we had done that, is that we'd have 60 because it's so pervasive. That again, people are just building this into their model. They don't care. They just show up, and it's a big problem. And so the message needs to get out there is they need to stop. They need to get the licenses. They need to get the permits. And there's one guy was talking about how he was again going to cover up the windows of the business and do it on the weekends so that it didn't set up any red flags. So it's intentional. They know exactly what they're doing. They know what they should be doing. They choose not to do it, and but it just doesn't matter. So no, I think and that's one of the reasons why we're going to move it around the county as we're doing this. The last one we did up in the north part of the county, and we knew from our time investigating this when we were doing it, in really in lieu of Pinellas County Construction Licensing Board, we had a lot down here in South County, a lot in the St. Pete area, and that's one of the reasons why we did this operation down here.
Sheriff, do you rely on the public to kind of point these situations out to you?
Not really to point them out as much as they call us when they're the victims. That old adage, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. People respond to these ads and they have somebody come by their house because it's on, Craigslist or Angie's List or Nextdoor or whatever it is. They see it advertised. They have somebody come by, and they come by and they give them a good deal. They get a quote from a licensed person, and it might be a little bit higher or whatever it is. And so then they call us because they got ripped off, because the work is shoddy, and because they got a real serious problem. When the electrical's not done right, the plumbing's not done right, the drywall's not done correctly, and then they call us and they complain. Then they want us to do something about it. But sometimes people know too that they're not doing their due diligence on the front end. Somebody shows up at your house, shows up at your business, and offers to do work for you, and they write it on a crumpled up piece of paper, and tell you that, well, we're not going to get the permit, we'll do it on the weekends, we'll cover the windows so nobody sees what we're doing, that's a clue that you got a problem and an issue. So they don't call us until after it's happening. So we pretty much have to go out and seek this out, but it's really not hard. Like I said, is that we're setting up these undercover operations and we make the phone calls and they come, and it really is too easy. And when we start seeing the numbers go down and we start seeing people show up who are licensed, then we'll know we're making a difference and we've made an impact in this. But during this whole operation all weekend long, not one person showed up that was legit. So, it's like anything else. When we start to see it slow down, then we'll know that we're having an impact with it. But right now, we could do these every day and we'd probably get the same results. I don't have any comment on that. It's a bunch of rhetoric, so I'm not, I didn't pay much attention to it, to tell you the truth. I wasn't there and don't really care what Al Sharpton has to say. Go back to New York, mind your own business.
Any reaction on the 5 Democratic candidates for governor kind of making it their issue?
It's called politics, and they're politicking. The facts and the law matter. Learn the facts and learn the law, and then you can opine. But until you learn the facts and learn the law, but again, in politics, that's what you're going to get. All right, thanks everybody.